Welcome to Drunk Advertising History, where we talk to industry veterans and experts about stories that have shaped the digital advertising industry and why they matter. I'm your host, Shiv Gupta from U of Digital, and today we're talking to Rob Deichert.
Rob Deichert, currently running Deichert Consulting, doing strategy and operational consulting in the ad tech space.
Rick, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, Rick Abell. I was ad.com alum 2003, 2010. And I'm drinking some kind of double IPA with very colorful artwork.
Rob, what are you drinking, by the way?
I'm drinking, so I've got this like Death Star, Star Wars Death Star ice cube, so it's perfectly round, except for the little dimple where the laser beam comes out. And on top of that is this peanut butter whiskey, which is nice for sipping.
You know, this is the first episode of Drunk History. So I wanted to do something that was really near and dear to my heart. I spent time at ad.com too. It was my first stop in my career. Rick was my first boss, which, we could talk about that at another time. It was, an interesting experience. But I wanted to talk about ad.com, right? I think ad.com is kind of a pioneer in the ad tech space. A lot of what we see today kind of spawned from a lot of the things that ad.com used to do back in the day before programmatic was even a word. And so I wanted to bring you guys on and talk about that a little bit. More importantly, I wanted to talk to you about that big kind of pivotal moment when AOL bought ad.com, right? And I think it was for around $500 million. It was a huge moment in the industry. It kind of set the bar and it set the precedent for a lot of things that followed. So that's why we're here today. Again, ad.com, near and dear to my heart, important to the industry. You guys are the experts. So we want to do a little drunk history with you guys.
Right. To the war room.
To the war room. Yeah, good one. Good one.
Okay, so this is how we're going to do this. I'm going to ask you guys some questions. And I want to kind of build out the history of how this all unfolded. Can you tell us just a really quick snippet of the origin story of advertising.com?
Well, so originally it started as TechnoSurf. My understanding is, and I joined in September of 2000, so I'm still kind of an old timer based on some of the other people that were there. But it started out of John Ferber's, I think it was a dorm or off-campus place up at Towson. And they were tracking clicks. They figured out kind of an ad network thing with clicks. Then I think one of the companies they acquired was this guy, John DeMaio, who's kind of a legend, who I also flipped real estate with on the weekends, on the side down there. But he was like up in Boston, was one of the largest publishers, and they brought him on board. So it started off in the dorm room, then it moved down to I think the next office was like down at the marina, down by the Inner Harbor, by that tower. And then eventually they went into Tide Point, which was a old Procter & Gamble soap factory that was being converted over.
Hey, and just for the listeners, all these places that Rob is referencing exist in Baltimore, Maryland.
And The Wire. If you watch The Wire, they're all in The Wire.
Hey, come on, man.
We are in Baltimore, Lamar. Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, next question. I'm going to go to you, Rick, because I think you were a fresh college grad at this time.
That's right.
A young buck. And so just what was your experience going straight from college to this cool startup? It was, post like .com bust. So that must have been weird, but kind of what was your experience? Like, what was ad.com like?
Well, I just came into an environment. They were just like crushing gold month after month after month. And I was like, man, this is awesome. Life is good. And then I know right around that time, we were looking at going public. So Rob probably has some good insights there, but we filed our S1 and like all of a sudden, like things got real. Like things were getting like serious and clamping down, and we had like numbers we had to hit. It was pretty wild time.
I heard this was, John Ferber wasn't there when I was there, but I heard a story about him, doing something not so appropriate over the intercom from time to time. Rick, would you care to share anything about that?
I don't know if I can comment on that.
Okay, we'll censor it. So let's get to the juicy stuff, the meaty stuff. So you guys were ready to IPO at around like 2003, 2004. You were in, hustle mode. You're doing all these things. What the heck happened? What happened? How did AOL swoop in and buy you? What's the genesis of that? How did that come about?
So we started doing some testing with them, and they had this it was called AOL PN, which was AOL Performance Network. And they would like try to optimize these performance campaigns. And we were like, well, let us run that for you. And we did it. I think we did this. It's hard because the stuff all blends together, but I think we did that before they acquired us, and we were able to generate the same amount of sales or revenue, whatever, at like 150 impressions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was quite amazing. And I think AOL was trying to really kind of grow at that point. So they're like, hey, like, why don't we buy this?
Do you accept cash?
So they came in and bought it. And then sure enough, like, I can't remember how long after, but then Right Media got snapped up for like 800 or 900 million. I was
well,
like,
yeah,
oh, you should have gotten that. Our tech was like, I still, even like in the, like later in, you know, past 2010, the stuff we were doing there is still leading edge. Even today, the stuff we were doing back then. So
I want to ask you a question about that, Rob. And I love that you applied it to today. So first of all, actually the tech, the ad.com tech, which was called AdLearn, actually still exists in the Verizon DSP today. That's actually the key driver of performance for them is, and you know, like AOL went through so many iterations. They merged with, they got bought by Verizon, and then Yahoo got in there, and like they're now Brightroll. But actually, the performance driving tech in the backbone of all of it is still AdLearn, I believe. That's what I've been told.
Sure.
And so I want to ask you about that for a second, right? Do you think, you know, what I find fascinating is programmatic wasn't actually even a word, I think, until like 2008 or 2007. And ad.com was doing programmatic before programmatic was a word, right? They were using that tech, the AdLearn technology to optimize campaigns.
Right? Pretty cool, huh?
What was it like post AOL? So like there's this huge, you went in, it was all crazy, you're going to go IPO, and then AOL kind of comes in and it's like, oh, okay. And they bought you for a lot of money, right? It was $500 million. Is that right, guys?
Yeah.
I want to say it was I thought it was 485.
Yeah, you know, rounding.
535. Yeah, somewhere.
435, maybe 435.
You can Google it. It's worth a Google.
But Rick, how did that feel, right? Like post, you had the pre and the post experience.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I mean, for me, I was 23 at the time. Like, you know, so people that got in super early got really nice checks out of this, right? Like, even for me as a 23-year-old, I got a nice check, and I took that whole check and I bought that accurate RSX you're talking about.
That was in 2004, I believe, right?
Yep,
And in
2004.
2007, there was a bunch of things that happened in the industry. Google bought DoubleClick for a lot of money, a couple $1 billion.
3.1.
Yahoo bought Right Media for a lot of money. And Microsoft, I think, bought AdECN that year as well. And so it's like, whoa, hold on. Microsoft, Yahoo, and Google are now getting into this game. And hey, guess who did it first? AOL in 2004.
Basically, they were there first.
Okay, so guys, this is awesome. I learned a lot from you guys. That was a lot of fun. I guess last thing I would ask you, Rick, we'll start with you. If there's one thing you learned from your experience at ad.com, you know, it's kind of the AOL acquisition of ad.com and the historical impact of that on today's industry. What might you say that is?
Well, I mean, I don't know if Rob would agree with this. I think like our hiring and training process was like bar none the best, right? Like we had just a awesome rotation of people grilling these kids right out of school.
Rob, what about you?
There are so many ad.com alum that have gone to other places that have just crushed it because fundamentally data-driven decision-making like usually plays out better than like kabuki theater. It's that people, process, and systems, and we got that formula just right.
Yeah. It was.
If I could, sorry, if I could just give like a shout out to John Ferber, Scott Ferber. Like, I don't know. Yeah, my first like, you know, CEOs leadership coming out of college, and like I think they just created like something magical.
Thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate you guys sharing a little bit of your experience. I'm out of beer. I don't know about you guys. I probably have to go refill now. Yeah. But one more cheers. And that was the first episode of AdTech Drunk History. Cheers. This is the beauty of what we do. We create our own stuff, which involves drinking. It's